Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alright, today we will continue to the topic of OSH auditing. There are 5 key concepts need to be understood by the students, which is verification, evaluate compliance to requirement, systematic, carry out in accordance to set protocols, periodic, conduct based on the established schedule, objective, auditors have some independence, and the last one is documented, reports are prepared. Before we go into more deeper on the OSH management system, specifically in OSH auditing, let's have a look at to the benefit of the audit. The benefit of the audit can be direct benefit, which is providing a visible sign of management commitment to OSH management system, giving managers a measure of their success in achieving a great requirement by identifying non-conformities and initiating timely corrective action. It would improve process and also reduce failure or probability of failures. In this slide is showing the direct benefit of OSH audit. Other benefit of OSH audit will have indicate the effectiveness of new or modified procedures, provide unbiased factual information about the performance of OSH management system to the top management, assuring customers, certification bodies and regulatory bodies that the OSH MS is well maintained. A part of the direct benefit of audit, there are also the indirect benefit of audits. Let's have a look. The number one is by having audit may improve training by identifying the need for training and measuring its effectiveness. And also it can be reduce the risk of OSH hazard, warranty and liability claim, and also can meet the legal compliance and improve the legal action among the employees in the company. Besides, it will also increase the OSH awareness throughout the organization, stimulate the contribution to continual OSH performance improvements among employees. There are 3 types of audit. One, internal audit, that consists of the audit interdepartmental within the organization. The number 2 is second party audit, corporate HQ audit or customer audit. And the number 3 is third party audit, audit by the certification or accreditation bodies, or the company or the organization is audited by the authority. The OSH management system audit performs 2 key functions. It aims to establish whether or not the organization OSH MS and activities conform to the requirement of the OSH MS standard. It should also determine whether the OSH MS has been properly implemented and maintained. The audit framework should address all components of an organization activities, including its organizational structure, administration, operational procedures, documentation, and OSH performance. The audit findings should reveal the effectiveness of the OSH MS and also identify and record any problem inherent in the system and make recommendation for the remedial action. Let's see the audit terminology, which consists of audit cycle, audit program. The third-party auditors will expect to see a program or timetable of all the audits which make up the audit cycle. The program should identify the areas of activity and system to be audited, the relevant frequency, and the planned times. So by having the audit program, we will have the timetable within the audit cycle. Show what is audit, when and by whom. The audit protocol or procedure is used to help guide the auditor through the on-site process. Such a guide adds consistency to the audit approach, can be used to help train the audit team. The audit protocol or procedure represents the plan of what the auditors is to do to accomplish the objective of the audit. It is an important tool since it not only serves as the auditor's guide to collecting evidence, but also as a record of the audit procedure complete by the team. Audit protocols and procedures should identify the document, records, and reports which need to be checked during the audit. The experience and qualification of auditors should be specified, in addition to means of ensuring their independence. The detail of individual audit includes audit scope, audit frequency, audit methodologies, personnel and experience, documentation required, and also the reporting and distribution. Let's see how to set up the audit program. The main factors to be considered when drawing up an audit program will include: first, area where risks are the greatest. The second one is where there is a history on non-conformance. And the third one is any changes to the system or organization which could impact on the effectiveness of the system. The above should be all considered in order to provide the most coherent approach to auditing the system. It's also important, however, to consider the resources available for the audit, the organizational structure, especially the number and type of site and department involved, and the time required between audit for the corrective action to be implemented. Let's see what is the means by using audits to deliver improvement. The audit should be used to optimize the control of significant OSH risks and contribute to the overall aim of continuous improvement. Is OSH performance being achieved? That's a question mark. If not, is system not implemented properly, or does the system not work? So if you have the answer, maybe the recommendation for improvement is warranted. The net result of implementing an OHMS is continual improvement. The audit is part of the process as it is used to check the plan management processes are being implemented and are delivering desired results. The audit can be seen as an information gathering exercise to ensure that the OHMS process is on track. Let's have a look at to the audit scheduling. The audit can be used to optimize the control of significant risks, and therefore the program should be constructed so that high-risk areas are audited more frequently than those associated with the lesser actual or potential hazards. High-risk areas could include the activities or operation where there is an obvious risk, or activities or operation with the potential to cause complaint, or activity or operation with the potential to breach OSH legislations, or activities or operation with the potential to result in significant OSH expenses. It is also important to take into account areas where there have been past problems and non-conformance. On occasions, it may be necessary to undertake unscheduled audits. For example, if changes to the organization, its activities, or its management processes and structure occur. It is very important to check that none of these changes have compromised or have potential to compromise OSH performance. In this slide, it stated that process change. Why new process? Why new process matters? A new process, for example, may generate new hazard and etc. When we talk about the areas or activities to be audited, it might be involved with the organizational structure that may consist of departments or divisions. A part of that, administrative and operational procedures also can be audited. It can be touched about the document control or permit to work, etc. The OSH-MS should not deal solely with the obvious issue of risk control, but should cover issues such as purchasing, design, or procedures related to new project. In summary, the audit process should not only concentrate on issues pertaining to direct operational control, but should also examine the existence and the effectiveness of the management process, covering these other key issues. Now we can start to plan the audit. Start with the before of audit. What we need to do before audit? First, prepare audit plan or program. Set the audit objective, which we need to have the answer why need to conduct the audit. The third one is audit scope, cost to be audited. Area to be audited, where cover all area or only focus on some division or department. Assign audit team members who will be involved with the audit process. Period, date and time, method of audit, site review, document audit, implementation audit. We need to appoint lead auditor and auditors to ensure the audit process is run smoothly. We need to ensure that the lead auditor or the auditors have a relevant competency, understanding the standards, competence on OSH issues, which may be by education or experience, competence on related law, understand auditing technique, understand the nature and system exists in the company. From the audit team, we also need to ensure that the audit team is competent to become the team member to conduct the audit. Before audit, auditors need to have briefing regarding the audit plan or program, area to concentrate, checklist or guidance that will be used to help them in conducting the audit. Each auditor roles, the scope or the roles and responsibility of the lead auditor and also the auditors. Previous finding, if any, that the finding must be documented and must be reachable in the organizations. Pre-audit founding, pre-audit finding, sorry, by lead auditor and also the auditor ethic that that consists of do and don'ts during the audit sessions. In this slide is stated the audit plan and program example. The audit scope and objective. For example, the scope and the objective can be to verify the adequateness of established procedure against the standards, to verify the implementation of established procedure in all departments. Now we go to the audit methodology. It can be more than two methodology. But in this slide, I show you the two methodology that can be used during audit. The first one is document audit. The document audit can be categorized as pre-audit, meaning that you have the document earlier before the physical audit, and then you may review the document and identify the gap or the potential area to be concentrate on. And the second one is the methodology to conduct the audit is site audit, or we call it as site visit. During the site visit, we can conduct the interview and take photograph to have better understanding what is really happening in the organization. And the plan of the program of the audit also need to pre-identify or determine the audit team. Let's say you have the lead auditor, so you have the name of the lead auditor, so you have to put in the documentation Ali, for example, and the auditor can consist of the friend of Ali, which is Ahmad and Abu. And the audit area for this slide, I give you the example, all departments. If you have 8 departments, so meaning that you want to audit all 8 departments. One of the methodology to conduct the audit is document audit. By having the document audit, we can verify the document or the practice of the organization towards the OSH management system standard, legal requirement, or other requirement, example client requirement. And we also can judge the practicability of the developed requirement in the document with the practice. By having all those kind of the verification, we can simply prepare question and checklist to be brought to the during the audit session. As an auditor, you have to be considered as independent from area or activity under audit, experienced and experts in the management system and standards, and any OSH matters. As an auditor, it is also good to have personal attributes as follows: obtains and assess objective evidence fairly, remains true to purpose of audit, evaluate audit observation and personal interaction during audit, treats concerned personnel with humility, reacts with sensitivity to national convention or customs, perform audit without distraction. As the continuation, the auditor also need to have the ability to listen, give full attention to audit process, reacts effectively in stressful situation, arrive at generally acceptable conclusion based on audit observations, remain true to a conclusion, able to organize and conduct an audit. As an auditor, we should maintain competence with current knowledge of OSH standard and requirement, and also competent with the current knowledge of audit procedures and methods. Participates in refresher training when necessary. Formal training should address OSH science, technical aspect of facility operation, OSH law, OSH MS standard, and audit procedure and technique. This area of knowledge require periodic refreshment, thus ensuring maintenance of competence. However, on the job training also need to be polished. The equivalent of 20 work days of auditing and a minimum for audits within a 3 years period. Other requirement are demand of a lead auditor, which may be added to demonstrate through interview or completion of at least 3 additional audit in one acting as a lead auditor. So, how to select the audit team? If we want to select the audit team, we need to consider to ensure that the team member is qualified to become a team for audit lah. Okay, so we need to consider qualification as specified in the standard, the type of organization, processes, activities, function being audit, number and composition of audit teams, language and skill, and also expertise of the individual audit team members. In select the audit team, we also consider there is no potential conflict of interest between audit team members and auditee, requirement of clients, certification and accreditation boards. We also need to consider the skill in managing the team and also skill needed to deal with a particular auditee. This I can say the minimum requirement, all right, for the team for auditee. The audit team should include experience as team leader, systems audit, or specialist. If not resources internally, then externally can be adapted. Pre-audit planning checklist, all right? Checklists are advised, but they are not mandatory because there are disadvantage and also advantages of having checklist. The checklist is the principal tool for use during site inspection and interview. It serves for primary purposes. First, it guides the auditor to ensure complete coverage of audit issues. Second, it prompts the auditor as to which question to ask. Third, it provides a means for recording observation and responses and simplified preparation of the audit report. Fourth, it assured continuity of audit to audit. However, the checklist cannot cover all possible situations, nor can all situations to be adequately described by a yes or no response. Therefore, the auditor should supplement the checklist with written comments that record observation, response of the interviewees, or information from records or documents. The objective should be to record sufficient information during the audit, either as a checklist response or as a comment to be able to prepare the audit report. The auditor must not slavishly follow the checklist to exclusion of making other observation or asking additional questions. Now we can move to the part of performing the audit. Auditor ethics. Always remember your objective is for the improvement of the system, not to find people mistake or fault. There is no right or wrong answer, only the matter of sufficient or insufficient. You are auditing the system and not the people. No system is perfect. Nobody is perfect, including you. Avoid using audit as opportunity for revenge. Control your temper. Be professional, not personal. Don't belittle the auditee. Avoid giving suggestion or opinion. The good practice which is due during the audit are listed as follows. However, here is the key of a good practice of audit, which is, I call it as effective communication. Communication occurs when the right person says the right things to the right people, at the right place, at the right time, in the right way to be heard and understood, and to produce the right response. In auditing, it is utmost important the auditee is at ease in communicating with the auditor. The auditor should do all he can to make the auditee feel at ease and not threatened. Some practical tips to achieve this trust is as follows, such as gain attention from the auditee before starting, explain clearly the purpose of the audit, include friendly remarks or express your interest in the way she or he doing. Politeness, all the way never antagonize or belittle of your auditee. Establish eye contact all the times. Communicate in the language or the individual is comfortable with. Use of body language to promote the dialogue. Listen. An auditor needs to train himself to be an active listener. Auditing is by no means an easy task. It typically involves long hours of work, traveling, and the need of comprehend new information and various styles of OSHMS. So try to avoid in any situation of being late, deviate from the program unless necessary, lecture or talk down the auditee, give recommendation, criticize management, make comparison, be long-winded, keep questions short and direct, be afraid to say that you don't understand and seek clarification, argue with the auditee or loss of your temper. Instead, the auditor are expected to have these good qualities such as punctual, objective, analytical, open-minded, inquiring, polite, good communicator, and so on and so forth. An auditor, you have to keep yourself, remember, you need to be objective. The auditor should be looking for non-conformity of the OSHMS, not carrying out with a witch hunt. Do persist if you believe that a non-conformity exists, but not to the extent of spending too much time. Do not get annoyed with the auditee. Make your own judgment. Do not take sides. It's better to remain independent of your judgment. Plan your time carefully. Arrive at the decision on the spot. If you move away, you might forget the circumstances or the evidence may be modified in your absence. Be positive. Do not set out to find fault in any specific area or activity. Ask the auditee to find the information. Do not attempt to try and find the information by yourself. Alright, we continue to the audit activities. When you find something which appears to be wrong, it is important not to criticize. It tends to make people defensive. Investigate the reasons for the non-conformance. Do not make assumptions. Do not attempt to stop the job. This undermines supervision and it's not the auditor's role. Do not undermine supervision. This can lead to tensions, lack of desire to cooperate, and can damage future relations. It is vital to record specific details of what is wrong. Non-conformity notes must be accurate. Do record conformance as well as non-conformance. This helps writing a positive audit report. Acknowledge this. Acknowledge the efforts that has been made in developing OSHMS, which helps to reduce any demotivation resulting from the identification of non-conformities. Let's say you have the finding. What are your findings? Findings should address the requirement, evidence, nature, locations. Here are the example of OSH MS finding. For example, you conduct the site review and you might be find any physical evidence of hazards, verification on risk and potential impact. And maybe you conduct the document review, you will find out the any part of the document is against conformance of OSH MS standards and procedures. And also you might also look at to the implementation stage, or you do the review on the implementations. You might also find the implementation is against compliance of established procedures and practice. All right. During the opening meeting for the in the audit sessions, as an auditor, you have to explain the audit objective and also the audit program. By having the structured planning of the OSH management system audit, you may conduct the auditing by looking at to the investigation, review of finding, ensure in line with the set objective, ensure cover all areas and clauses assigned. And in every audit meeting, you need to conduct a closing meeting. So you can present your findings, and you at that session also you can have the feedback from the personnel that involved with your audit. This is much less formal for an internal audit than it is for a third party audit, but nevertheless, it is essential that all members of the audit team are present and meet with the manager of the department under audit. It helps the easy process or progress of the audit if all the supervisors are also present. The objective of this meeting, which is opening meeting, is to explain to the departmental manager and his team exactly what is the purpose of the audit and how it is going to be carried out. The right approach by an auditor at this meeting can result in the full cooperation of the department and the easy passage of the audit operations. This meeting is confined to a maximum time allocation of between 10 to 15 minutes. During this meeting, the head of the audit team will introduce the members of the audit team, review the scope and objective, review the assessment plan and its timetable, explain the method and procedure of conducting the audit and the method of reporting non-conformance, confirm the time and the closing meeting. Confirm the time of the closing meeting, sorry. In the previous slide, I did mention about the investigation. Investigation is about obtaining factual evidence. Evidence should be collected through interviews, examination of documents or records, and observational of activities and conditions in the area under audit. Non-conformance should be noted, and evidence that is insufficient to raise a non-conformance but indicates that further evidence would produce it should be followed up to either justify or refute the idea. Observation of fact that may result in raising of the NCR non-compliant result should be witnessed at the time of discovery by the auditee or auditee's representative. A note should be made identifying on non-conformance, example, a part number, gauge number, document title, and issue number, location, etc. So objective evidence is to show the evidence that exists, not influenced by emotion or prejudice, can be documented, is about quality, can be quantitative or qualitative, can be verified. Sampling. There is never enough time to examine everything. Sampling is to be based on the following: relevant to the specific objective and scope of the audit, representative of the activity to be examined, a person from several people, select the record of process output, select the item or equipment, and location among several locations. And the last one is size of sampling, which is adequate to judge a grade requirement are being made. Interview is one of the technique that usually used by the auditor or the team of the auditor to conduct the audit. By having the interview, we can ask mainly open-ended questions which provide information. We also can look and observe what is happening during the interview. By having the interview, also we can check instruction provided and record generates, and also record objective evidence, positive and negative. During the interview, it is very important to elicit the auditor's cooperation during an audit interview, and there are certain things which can assist in obtaining the cooperation. By offering an explanation on why certain questions are being asked, the auditee will generally be more cooperative because they understand that the auditor is not being awkward or pedantic, and because they appreciate that the auditor is considering them as a person. It is quite common for questions to be initially misunderstood. This usually becomes clear when the expected answer is received. Sometimes a question may be to be rephrased a number of times before it is understood to be, so be patient. Some individuals become highly stressed in an audit situation, and this can manifest itself as aggressions, particularly if they feel defensive about their work or situation. If the situation appears to be getting out of hand, it's often a diplomatic to break off. Perhaps use a coffee break as an excuse, and return to the area at a later stage when the auditee has had a chance to think about the question and cool down. It is a courtesy, a good practice to start the audit in a particular area with the manager or supervisor of the area before talking to the person actually doing the work. This ensures that the supervisor is aware of what is happening in their area and is allow them to ensure that it's safe for the employee to stop work or answer question or suggest a time when it would be more convenient. Without doubt, the capability and effectiveness of an audit will depend on the auditor's questioning skill. The auditor need to ask the right questions in order to obtain the information she or he requires. Questioning is a matter of skills but can be developed over time. It was said that auditor has six friends: what, when, why, how, whom, where. And his best friend is show me. This question should be used in conjunction with other skill of listening and observing. While it is important to ask the right question, it is equally important to listen to answers and observe any evidence given by the auditing. Using the three skills of questioning, listening, and observing, the auditor will be able to approach an audit in an effective manner. Listening. Good listening requires concentration. If you're really serious about becoming an effective communicator, first you must become an effective listener. Here are some tips that can help you to do exactly that. Tip 1. Be open. Switch off all negative thought about that person. Be respectful to what is being said. Drop those emotional barriers that filter out what is being said or cause you to hear only what you want to hear. Tip 2. Start listening with the first sentence. Self-centered people can't actively listen. They tend to be preoccupied with their own daydream. Put aside what you are doing and concentrate on what the person is saying. Tip 3. Concentrate on what is being said. Actively try to hear every word as if it were the most important thing you could hear at that moment. Avoid the temptation to think faster than the person is talking. Tip 4. Look for the meaning of what is being said. Don't try to read your own meaning into what this person is saying. Rather have the person convey his or her own meanings by showing genuine interest. Tip 5. Avoid the temptation of interrupting. Big people monopolize the listening, small people monopolize the talking. These words is coming from the Dr. David Squatch in his book, The Magic of Thinking Big. During the site audit, we're looking at the process to identify the method, facilities, people, material, and also the environment to verify whether or not all those process is met with the OSH management system standards and also any other regulation and requirement. Examination of records related to OSH management system, example management review minutes, which is consists of the follow-up, identify corrective actions, analysis of the accident, subcontractor problem, check of corrective action logs to confirm close out, investigation of internal audit can be part of the checking for the record that may exist in the organizations. This should be used to verify that working practice complies with the documentation of OSH manual, the departmental procedures and work instruction. They will also be used to confirm or deny the legitimacy of the information obtained by the questioning process. Facts should be gathered and recorded as the investigation proceeds. It is always tempting for inexperienced auditor to trust to memorize, but this temptation should be resisted. The fact will be too numerous to recall, and recall may be not accurate. This is particularly important when non-conformities are discovered. In some cases, it may be useful to take a photocopy in bracket with permission, of course, of a document if it will assist an auditee to understand the non-conformity. Similarly, if there is insufficient space and attached to the checklist, separate sheet should be used and attached to the checklist. In conclusion, you have to make notes as you go, but notes must be concise and detailed as all the information is jotted down. Before formally presenting the result of audit investigation, the evidence collected during the audit should be reviewed. Factual evidence can be something you see, something you are told by the management representative, is company policy or practice, or something you are told by an operator describing their own understanding of operating procedure or work process. Factual evidence include identification of document or product, where the evidence was observed, who was present during the observations. So all those findings that can become the evidence need to be reviewed and decide what the findings are whether the findings are non-conformity, which is defined as the failure or inability to achieve a grade requirement, or observation, a statement of fact made during an audit and substantiated by objective evidence. And at the end of the session or the process, you have to discuss and agree finding with other team members. And after you have made the agreement regarding to the findings, the auditor may prepare for closing meeting. The overall aim of the audit is to determine whether or not the OSH conform to plan arrangement for environmental management, including the requirement of the standard, has been properly implemented and maintained. A good audit trail should be discernible. The audit should not be glorified inspection. The internal audit should be an emulation of the third party audit. Okay, now we move to the audit trail. Ascertain whether there are one or more objectives and target. This might be documented in the OSH Management System Manual or in the management program. Investigate how this fit into the management program through documentary evidence and interview. Establish who are the key personnel involved in managing any hazards. Allocation of responsibility may be documented in the management program, job description, etc. This information may be checked by interview with senior management or the personnel officer. Okay, let's continue to the audit trail. Establish the route for operational control of any aspect. This might be documented in a procedure or work instruction and interview. With key personnel should be clarified the situation. Other documentation might include records of the correspondence with regulatory authorities. Check if there are any regulatory conditions which apply. This should be documented in authorizations, consents, license, planning, permission, records of correspondence. Check knowledge of the condition by interview with relevant personnel. Establish the area or department to visit which may be associated with the operational control of the hazard. Okay, let's continue to the audit trail. Record of OSH performance measurement for consistency, accuracy, and appropriateness need to be regularly checked. Documented procedure may be available or data on computer. Interview may help to establish method of measurements. Record of OSH performance report should be available as it is the method by which progress is ascertained against the objective of the target. Minutes if management review meeting may provide evidence of performing reporting. Perform communication with the interested party relevant to the aspect should be investigated. This may be record of telephone call, letters, press clipping, and so on. How about the contractor briefing and previous corrective measures or requests? Check record of contractor briefing to see if there are any areas where contractor may need to be made aware of procedure associated with the control or prevention of the hazards. In any corrective action request may have been raised in connection with the hazard, evidence of the corrective action should be sought. This might be internal or external correspondence, revised procedure, record of measurement, training record, etc. Observational evidence of changed working practice and interview can also help. Audit trail will generally be fairly comprehensive, encompassing a wide range of the system requirement. It may, however, be necessary to supplement the trail audits with procedural audits, example, those procedures that will not be fully addressed within the trail audit during the complete audit cycle. The third-party certification bodies use two categories of non-conformance in their assessment. The first one is major non-conformance that reflect a serious breakdown of EMS. Major non-conformance means that the part of the system or the entire system is not effective. The company will not be certified if major non-conformance are found during an audit. The second non-conformity is minor lapse in the quality system, which means that the overall system is functioning, but there are isolated cases of non-conformities. Single or a few minor non-conformance does not affect the company's registration, but if there are significant number of them, they can collectively constitute a major non-conformance. Now is about the corrective action request, or we call it as CAR. CAR is a formally present to the auditee and agree on non-conformity. Non-conformity statement should be based on complete checklist. Statement of non-conformity should be correct, complete, clear, process related, and also concise. Recommended approach in writing non-conformity statement is briefly state the requirement, state the non-conformity, include objective of the evidence. Alright, now we in the part of audit reporting and closing meeting. At the end of an audit, it is recommended that an audit report summarizing the audit finding be provided to the auditor's management. In an internal audit, this report should highlight the audit team's opinion on the audit on top of the areas of discrepancy found during the audit. Any positive aspect of the OSH management system found by auditor should be reported. This is to encourage the audit organization to further improve or at least maintain the strong point. A verbal audit reporting should be done at the end of the audit session. The arrangement should be similar to that of an opening meeting. The objective of this meeting is to present the result of the audit and to agree on the corrective action if they have not been agreed earlier. Closing meeting. Ensure that everybody understand what you have said. During this meeting, the lead auditor will explain the audit is done on sampling basis and there might be areas of non-conformance which are not spotted by the audit. Give the overall audit team's view of the departments of OSH-MS. Indicate what are the strong points found by the audit team. Present non-conformance and the agreed action, including their corrective actions. Recommend suggestion for improvement to management. Thanks auditee and the management for their cooperation. Alright, now we at the post audit. In writing up the results and conclusion, care should be taken to distinguish between observation, interpretation, assessment, judgment, opinion, advice, and recommendation. The audit report is prepared under the direction of the lead auditors, who is responsible of its accuracy and completeness. The audit report provides information on what was discovered, reflect facts and views presented at the closing meeting. OSH-MS require result of audit to be documented. The audit report also need to have the summarization of the finding, which highlight the problematic issues, conclusion of the system effectiveness, and also need to highlight the suggestion for improvement. In the report, it is necessary to identify the reference document against which the audit was conducted, for example, OSH Management System Standard, Auditor's OSH Manual, etc. And the auditor need to observe of non-conformities, audit team judgment of the extent of the auditor's compliance with the application or with the applicable OSH MS standard and related documentation. The system's ability to achieve defined OSH objective, which is any communication made between the time of the closing meeting and the issue of the report should be led by the auditor. The auditor is responsible for determining and initiating corrective action needed to correct a non-conformity or to correct the cause of a non-conformity. Corrective action and subsequent follow-up audit should be complete within a period agreed to by the client and the auditee in consultation with the auditing organization. Auditee to reply proposed corrective action within 14 days, keeping track of corrective action by follow-up log. Alright, now we in the slide of follow-up on corrective action. All non-conformance must be followed up to ensure that all items agreed in the report are effectively implemented. It's usually appropriate that the auditor himself revisit the area of non-conformance to establish the implementation of corrective actions. During the follow-up, the auditor can either close the non-conformance if the deficiencies are corrected or keep the non-conformance open if found otherwise. The question whether a visit of the site is necessary or not will depend on the nature of non-conformance. If it does not require a proof, example, correction of practice, layout, etc., physical document verification is usually sufficient. If requested, the auditor may also make recommendation to the auditee for improvement to the OSH MS. Recommendations are not binding on the auditee. It's up to the auditee to determine the extent, the way, and means of action to improve the OSH MS. The recommendation may give guidance if asked, but unless you are certain. However, it is not good to give solution. Let the auditee decide. With that, thank you.